On today's episode of the Global Travel Channel podcast show, we're going to go for a walk. In fact, a very long walk. Find out where next. Hello and welcome to the Global Travel Channel podcast show. My name is Mark Philpott. On the show, we talk to people from across the world about all things related to travel. From amazing adventures to inspiring stories to the not so well known destinations, we cover it all. You can find all of our previous podcast episodes on our Global Travel Channel website by going to www.globaltravelchannel.com. You can also find our episodes on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and Stitcher, to name just a few. The Global Travel Channel is a collaboration between travel writers, photographers, YouTubers, podcasters, and bloggers from across the world. We bring you information that we hope makes your next travel experience an awesome one, no matter where you decide to travel to. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, so be sure to subscribe, like, and follow us so that you can keep updated on our new content postings as and when they happen. You can now even support us through Patreon. For as little as the price of a cup of coffee per month, you can help us continue to produce the podcast show that you are listening to right now. Now on to today's show. And on today's show, we're going to go to Europe and we're going to take a walk. And it's a very long walk. Many of you have heard about the Camino de Santiago trail, and my guest today is going to tell us all about his experience on that particular walk. So without any further delay, it's a very warm welcome to the Global Travel Channel podcast show to Mr. Patrick Scott Armstrong. Patrick, welcome to the Global Travel Channel podcast show.
Hello, yes, Austin, Texas here. Happy to be here, Mark.
Now I've got to ask you, you're all the way over there in Austin, Texas. I'm down here in Australia. And there's a great deal of distance between the two of us today, but it's amazing that we can connect like this and have a chat on the podcast show.
It's honestly, it's very crazy because the quality of the phone call that we're having right now, honestly, it's the same quality I have with a buddy just down the street, and you're halfway across the world. Like, that's crazy.
Isn't that
amazing?
Amazing? Yeah.
If I stop to think about it, my brain will explode. So I try not to even, just realize that's amazing. And oh my God, and let's, it is crazy.
Look, I want to start off by showing my appreciation of you by thanking you very much for coming on the show today. You put your hand up and you said, "Hey, I'd like to help you out and be on your show and talk about a travel experience." And I'm really appreciative of that. So thank you very much.
No, absolutely. It's my pleasure. Anytime I get to talk about El Camino, it's a great opportunity for me because I tell anyone and everyone I meet, for the most part, if the conversation comes up, that it's the single-handedly, the greatest experience that I've had in my life. So
yeah,
any chance to talk about it, I'm in 100%.
Fantastic.
And supporting a fellow podcaster, right? Like,
yeah,
you're doing great. You're doing great things, man. You have a great story. Just your story alone. Like, why are we talking about me? You're the one, like, living on a boat, being a host, living the life. Like, are you kidding me? Like, that's a great story unto itself. Like,
well,
honestly,
that was a really good try at deflecting, but we're going to come back to you.
I love it.
Now,
yeah, man. Yeah.
You live in Austin, Texas, and I think there's another man by the name of Armstrong that's pretty famous around those parts.
Yeah, Lance Armstrong. Yeah, no relation. Just in case anybody's wondering, I get asked all the time. So, no relation. Famous. It was great to be associated with him for a long time, and then the dam broke and it no longer became a good thing overnight. But he moved from here. Honestly, recently he left the Austin area, so now he's up in Colorado.
Oh.
But honestly, when he lived here, he was in the news here every week. Once a week, he'd be in the local paper about something. Good things, like, honestly, like, and a lot of, just to be fair to him and his story, he was still doing good things here in Austin.
Do you take your bicycle to the Johnny Mello bicycle shop there?
I don't ride bicycles.
Okay.
I don't ride bikes. I haven't ridden a bike since I was like, I don't know, 7. Like I don't do bikes very well. I prefer my feet.
Yeah.
And I trust them, but I respect, cyclists. They're all over town here in Austin.
Yeah.
In Texas, they're everywhere. They're on the streets. They're in the roadways. They're everywhere. It's how a lot of people get around here, and it's awesome. I think it's great for them. But when it's like 110 degrees outside, I mean, you're Australian, like you know what hot weather is, right? Like
Yeah.
when it's 110 degrees outside, I really just don't feel like jumping on the bike and riding 25 miles for me. Now it was weird. I could walk that, no problem.
Yeah.
And it would be nothing to me. But for some reason, I don't know. Biking's just not my thing.
So how about we get the audience to know you a little bit more? How long have you lived in Austin for?
I've been in Austin for 5 years. This summer was my 5-year anniversary. I moved here in 2014.
Okay, and did you move with a job, or what was the reason to move?
I'm a chef. I've been in the restaurant industry for 15 years or so. I moved to Austin to open up a food truck. So If any of your listeners are from the Texas area or around Austin, they've probably heard of my truck. It's called Boca, Boca, Spanish influence. I basically got the inspiration from doing the Camino. That's exactly, why I opened the whole thing. I was doing Spanish food and opened up a food truck and I did that really for the last 5 years. I just closed it here very recently in the last few months. And I'm doing some new stuff on the other. I'm not in the kitchen anymore. Now I'm trying to showcase chefs and restaurateurs, farmers, ranchers with a new travel series that's going to be on the internet.
Oh, fantastic! But I'm gonna read 4 words to you, and you're gonna tell me what they mean to you.
Sure.
Stop, drop, and taco.
That's just how I live life. I realized something in my travels is one thing, not everyone knows what a taco is, which is crazy to me because I live on tacos. I eat, breathe, and, dream about them. And for those who don't know what a taco is, it's a corn tortilla, right? It's like a flour sort of thing made with corn or made out of flour. You just put a filling in it. I mean, lots of cultures have different versions, the kebab, the hero, those sort of things are very similar. But tacos, man, they're my life. I'm half Mexican. I grew up in parts of central Mexico. That's where my mom's from. And I just grew up on tacos. And then growing up in Texas, too, I grew up here originally. So just tacos all day long. I've never been to Australia. So do you guys have tacos over there? Do y'all know what they are?
Yeah, we certainly do. But they're,
Okay.
let's say they're nothing like what you guys have over there.
Right on. Just kind of typical hard shell, maybe something.
Yeah.
Totally. That's probably what most people think. And those are not tacos.
Now I'm gonna get bombarded by Australian restaurants calling me now and saying that I'm an idiot and that we have brilliant tacos here in Australia.
You might. You absolutely might.
Yeah.
Who knows?
So you've gone from, as you say, being a chef, and now you're doing kind of videoing and photography work to bring it all to life on the screen. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Now I get to go travel, basically go meet up with, friends that I have in the industry, other chefs, restaurant owners, whatever they are in the industry, whatever they do, go meet with them and hang out with them and have a meal and sort of just discuss, things that are going on.
That's fantastic. I'm going to have you back on the show to talk specifically about food.
Sure.
But today we're going to be talking about walking, and it sounds like walking's one of your favorite things to do. So when I posted on the Facebook page that I was going to do this episode and talk about the Camino walk, there was a lot of people contacting me and said, "Oh, when's this on? This is going to be really interesting. I really want to go and do this, and I need to get some information." So you're the guy today to be able to share exactly what it's like, but also helping out the listeners to kind of organize themselves logistically, because I think whenever you go and do a travel experience like this, you got to kind of know the lay of the land, and it helps so much, obviously, by talking or listening to somebody that's been there and done it. Yeah.
Oh, sure. I mean, 100%. Honestly, I wish I would have done that before I went and did the Camino because I didn't know really anything about it.
Mm.
A friend of mine in the States had said to me, "Hey, I'm thinking of going to do this hike across Spain." That's literally how he put it to me, and I thought, "Well, that sounds fun. Let's go." I mean, we booked tickets and originally just supposed to go for a few months, and I didn't really know much about it, to be honest with you. There was a little bit of information online at the time, but not as much as there is now. But I sort of just went not knowing what how it was going to be and what it was going to be about, honestly. Like, I knew it was long. I knew that's really all I knew. I knew, once I saw a map of where we were walking, I thought, okay, that's great. But I didn't know anybody's experience. I hadn't heard anybody's testimonial on it. I actually kind of enjoyed that. I like surprises. I like not knowing, sort of going into a situation just to be just life give you what it's going to give you, and you just deal with it. I sort of am that way. So that was my experience. At the beginning of the Camino, I didn't know anything about it. But for your listeners that are listening, the Camino is. I love talking about this. So the Camino is, look, it's an old apostle trail that exists in Europe. So the apostles used to take these trails, and there's many scurried throughout Europe. So you can come through France, even across Spain. There's one through Portugal. You can start up from Madrid. You can go along the coast. I did the most famous trail, which is called the Camino Frances, and that's the French trail. You start on the French border and just work your way west all the way to the main spot, the city, which is Santiago de Compostela, which is supposedly where St. James is buried. So everybody meets at that spot. So no matter where you start in the Camino, you have to end there. Like that is the fine. So the beginning could be anywhere, but the ending is always there. And then there's a second part to it that some people do and some people don't. It's called Finisterra. And that means the end of the earth. So many people back in those days, thousands of years ago, used to think that part of the Atlantic Ocean where the ocean met the land was the end of the earth. We could go no further. Ships would drop off at the end, right? Like, this is basically the area of the world where Columbus set off to discover the Americas. So it's a really cool experience to get to. I didn't do the Finisterra. The next time I go back to do the Camino, I do want to do that. I was so dead tired when I finished. Like, I didn't think I could walk another inch, to be honest with you. So the thought of like walking another 100 kilometers was like, I can't do this. But in retrospect, I kind of wish I would have done it. If I do it again, I'll 100%.
So what inspired your friend to do this? Was he already planning it before he spoke to you, or?
No, just heard it at a party, sounded fun.
Yep.
We were just sort of, this was one part of a European adventure for us at the time, right? Like, it was just supposed to be something we'll do along the way. But that quickly changed, after day one of doing it. Like, this is not going to be just a regular adventure that we're about to set on. I knew immediately it was going to be life-changing.
Had you been to Europe before?
No, I had never been to Europe before. It was my first experience. So it was all new. I was taking everything in from that point on. I spoke Spanish. I grew up bilingual. Again, my mom's from Mexico City, so I did speak Spanish. That was a big help, being able to communicate there. It was a different dialect. They speak they speak the King's Spanish, Castellano, they call it. So, that was a little bit of a struggle. And then when you get to Santiago, that's a different part of Spain entirely, in the Galician region, where they speak Gallego. It's another language unto itself. But yeah, there was really nothing behind it. Like, oh, we got to do this trip and it's going to be amazing, and we've researched for months and blah blah blah. And it was nothing like that. It ended up being, I don't know much about it. I remember we walked into a church in Pamplona. That's where I started, in Pamplona. So it was maybe 60 kilometers, I think. I'm probably way off on that, from the border of France. So we were going to walk 50 miles, I think, to get to Santiago from there.
Yeah.
And really, we just walked into a church, told them we were starting Camino. They handed us a passport that you take along the way, that you get these stamps at different hostels and along the way, or anywhere you stay that's like an official Camino spot or something. And they just gave us a passport, and it was like, okay, well, how do we start? Yeah, just walk out the door and turn right. That's it. And there's no like official trail, or it's you're just walking along the country, anywhere along a sidewalk, a road, a highway, the middle of nowhere, up a mountain, down to this. It's sometimes there's stuff that's laid out and sometimes not, and you just really have like a little paper map that you're using. That looks like an amusement park map, like it like roller coaster here and hot dogs over here and restrooms here. It looked like one of those, but it was for the Camino. It was kind of funny. And you sort of just planned out your day, how far you're going to walk. Am I walking 15, 20, 30, 40 kilometers? You just sort of pick, you go at your own pace. There's no schedule. I loved it. You're just free to do whatever you wanted. At any time. You could stay in a town for a couple of days. I like to get here. I'm going to hang out for a couple of days before I head on. Yeah. And you're just following arrows. That's the key. Anybody that does a Camino, you just follow arrows. Yeah. That's how you know if you're going the right way or not.
So you're completely sustainable in terms of you've got a backpack on with all your gear in, and that's it.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay. Exactly. Just got a backpack on. And what's funny about that is, I took a bunch of stuff with me thinking, I'm going to need this and I'm going to need that and I'm going to need all this stuff, like I'm Robinson Crusoe or something. and I get out there and realize quickly, I must have dropped half the stuff in my bag at the first hostel. Like I just left it for free. Like anybody can have it because I'm not carrying this shit with me. Yeah. It was so heavy and just useless stuff. You realize quickly you just didn't need a lot of this nonsense to take with you. It's not like a truly rugged adventure. You are hitting towns and stuff at certain points, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's not like you need a machete and I don't know, different stuff that you might need on a more adventurous trek if you were going up a mountain or something like that, where you got to have actual gear. You don't really need gear. You just need a couple pairs of underwear and a couple pairs of some shirts and 2 shirts, one pair of pants. Just keep it light. Just your personal belongings.
What time of the year did you do this in?
I did it in May, like middle of May to the middle of June, which I highly recommend for people doing the Camino. Yep. Anytime from May to like end of June, maybe even July. It's a little hot, but fall can be a good time too. But like winter, early spring, they say it's pretty bad. Just there could be a lot of rain. It could be colder. It's all what you like, I guess. I'm from Texas, so I don't mind warmer weather. To me, it wasn't that hot walking, but I only got rain, I think, 2 days the whole time.
Wow.
So,
yeah. I'm interested to know this was your first experience in Europe, so I'm interested to know what your connection to Europe was like in terms of, how different did you see Europe compared to where you've come from?
Way different. I did see, if you've ever gone to Mexico, they do have a lot of European structures to it. The way that a town will be centered around a plaza, and that sort of style of living. And so I was sort of used to that, but honestly, it was nothing like I was used to. Everything was so old. I'm not used to things being that old. To have such a history. Even the screws were different that they used. Like everything was different. The lamppost, the light, the plastic, the lettering, the fonts, you name it, it was different. The signs, the paint, it just didn't matter. The construction style, architecture, obviously, right? Culture, like everything was different. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I mean, I just loved all of that, just absorbing every last, bit of it that I could. We spent a week in Madrid before we even got to do the Camino. They lost our bags. I thought, I'm not even going to be able to do the Camino. My first trip into Europe, and they lose my bag, which has everything, right? My backpack literally had everything I had in it. So I spent 4 days in Madrid without any of my stuff, just the shorts and flip flops that I traveled in, trying to be comfortable, which was a huge mistake. Yeah, I had to just go buy all this new stuff, quickly to last a few days, hoping my bag would show up. And sure enough, it did.
What airline did you fly?
Area, however you guys say. Yeah. It's happened to me twice with them, actually, that I've flown to Europe. They've lost my backpack twice. But anyway, yeah.
That happens, yeah. It's all about
Totally.
it's all about flying.
Totally.
So the connection to Europe was talked in a very mindful way in terms of your awareness of, noticing things like fonts and screws, and that's quite a amount of detail about your surroundings. What about the food side of things as well?
Yeah, 100%. The food was and at that point I was really starting my career in the food industry. I'd been in it, 4 or 5 years at that point, and I was going to Europe to learn about wine too. Culture. I was really big into wine, and I'm a first level sommelier here in the States.
Right.
I took that test many, many years ago, but yeah, that was something I wanted to, let's go to Rioja. We can go to all these places,
Yep.
I just couldn't believe it. So yeah, the food was immensely different. Just very chill and simple, and just about good quality ingredients, but not too much fluff about it. Now, you can go to certain spots and get some tapas that are tweezer food, as we call it in my industry, but you can also just get normal everyday stuff, and that's all it was about: some cured meats, some cheeses, fresh bread. Just very simple, and you just sort of ate a little and drank a little all day. I loved it. I mean, I couldn't get enough of that.
Now, like it is around the world, eating is an experience in itself, but in Europe and particularly in Spain, it becomes an event, and
yeah,
it's almost like the day is built around the
totally.
the whole 100%. Eating experience, right? How did you find that part of it, where you're not dining until 10 o'clock at night or even later?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it wasn't too big a stretch for me. In the Latin culture, it's kind of done that way too. So I grew up eating like that, eating dinner later and lunch later like that, and taking siestas, and all that was very similar to Mexican culture. So I was used to that style of it. It was more just what we ate, what we were eating. The way they drank was different. Nobody's drinking shots and big beers, and it's just like everything's mixed and diluted and fresh and refreshing, and you just sort of sip all day sort of thing. Everything's light that they give you. Nothing's really too strong.
This is a part I really love about travel, isn't it? You can go to another part of the world and you can just immerse yourself in a completely different culture, and it brings out all those flavors of the palate, really. Like, you can just try everything and anything, and it can be so different to what you're used to, but in a good way. It can give you that different experience.
Oh, 100%. Food is a reflection of the culture, right? You can learn a lot about the food. You can learn a lot about the culture from the food, from that culture, whatever it may be. You just learn about the people that way. Are they just how they are as people will reflect in the food. We say that all the time in the kitchen, like, your mood or emotion will come out in the food. It's just how it is. Like, you can't avoid it. It's why you try to control that, if based on the dish you're working on, because it will just inevitably come out. And the same thing with culture. I mean, food is generally built around necessity a lot of times. Well, we can only grow this crop and only do it this way, so this is the food we can make of it, so it just sort of comes that way. And then when you have this little playground to sort of play in, then they start experimenting with flavors in there and this and that, and that's why culture's food is just so different. It's just based on the environment that they're in. It's why that's why it all connects together: food, culture, the environment, right? Like traveling, like it's all together. I love it. I just love it.
How did the wines stick up in terms of the expectation that you probably had when you went to Europe and trying these wines in their own country? Did they live up to the expectation?
Oh God, yes. Oh my God, like just the best wine I'd ever had in my life. Like they don't export the best wines out of the country. So the stuff you're drinking there, you're not going to get unless you're there, So, I mean, we were in vineyards, so I'm drinking out of barrels. I'm squishing with my, grapes with my feet. I slept in a couple of vineyards at night. Like,
fantastic.
just, okay. Like I slept in a lot of weird places during the Camino, just for the experience of it. Just you could just do what you wanted, right? You're just going around wherever you free to roam. So but the wine especially was and cheap, just inexpensive and delicious.
Yeah,
to me, Spanish wines and Australian too, I would actually say have the best value that you get for your money. When you buy a Spanish wine that's low end and you're trying not to spend much money, you're going to get the most bang for your buck. Like Australian wines are that way too. Argentinian wines are that way too.
I might be talking to you from Australia today, but I'm a very proud New Zealander. So you didn't.
Oh, right on.
I
love New Zealand wine too. They have great wine too.
I'm glad you put that in at the end. You saved that situation very well.
I mean, 100%. I forget. Is there like a battle between New Zealanders and Australians there? Is that like some sort of like Canadians and Americans? Is there some sort of like little...
That's a very good way of illustrating exactly the kind of rivalry that exists between our two nations.
That's the word I was looking for. Yeah, right on.
It's very intense, and it's been going on a long, long time.
I bet. Oh, I bet. I love it. I kind of love that.
Now let's get back to the trail, because a lot of people are listening, wanting to know how you prepared for this. Did you spend a lot of time getting super fit?
I actually did train. I did know I was going to walk for a long time. So probably about 6 weeks before, I started walking about 5 to 10 miles a day with a pack on that had about 30 pounds in it.
Yeah.
So I just used the same pack that I was going to use for the trip, and I would just walk that in the morning. Just I did it 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, and gave myself the weekends to rest.
Yeah.
I would probably, in retrospect, I would do more. I'd probably walk about 10 to 15 miles a day this next time that I do it, to prepare, because it still wasn't enough training when I started it.
Yeah.
Like, it took a few days for my body to adjust. Like, I thought I was going to die. Like, my body was like, what did you do to me? Like, this is crazy. Like, but, people are in way better shape than me and doing way crazier things than that. Like, it's a mental game in a lot of ways. People go for spiritual journey. People go for just the adventure of it. Everyone's got their own sort of journey, but I would say it's very much a mental trip in a lot of ways.
So I guess because of that, it actually does turn it into some kind of spiritual activity. If you're getting into the mind and you're spending such a long period of time with oneself and inside one's head, did you find that there was some kind of spiritual connection for you?
I'm not a religious person, but I do believe that there's energies, and there's things that you feel, and there's, just connections that you can make with other human beings that just kind of go beyond words. And definitely on this trip I had the most of that I've ever had. Like, the people you meet along the Camino is unbelievable. That's really what the Camino is. It's that trip. It's the people you meet along the way. The road you're under, it could change. Like, none of that matters. It's really these connections that you're making with people. And I did see people having very strong spiritual journeys along the way that were great for them. I guess, maybe you could call it a spiritual journey that I had on my own. Not a religious one or a godly one, but there was definitely something more. It was more than myself.
Yeah.
It was more. It wasn't about me. This trip, and it was great, man. It truly was just single-handedly the greatest experience that I've ever had.
That's really great to hear, and I guess that's where I was coming from with the spirituality. I understand the history of the trail in terms of its religious significance, but I also believe that spirituality in us all exists through connection to each other and to the environment we're in. And I guess this was a very different experience than you walking out of your backyard in Austin, Texas, and going down to the local park for a walk. This was
100%
connecting with different cultures, being in a different environment, either whether it be climatically different or from a base of cuisine or anything. It just gave you that awareness, I guess, to your surroundings in a greater force.
Oh, 100%. That's
Mm.
absolutely a great way to put it. That's the great thing about the Camino is just one moment you're, walking along the street of some small town along the way, and next thing you know, you're up in a mountain hanging onto a tree trying to get over the next trail. Like it switches so dramatically,
Mm.
and along that path, like you said, these human connections you're making, and honestly, the architecture, like you get to visit so many beautiful churches along the way. I would say they're all Catholic. I can't imagine what else they would be. But these beautiful churches. I mean, cathedrals, right? These are cathedrals. Why am I calling them churches? These are cathedrals. These are like just amazing structures, like, and you couldn't help but feel something.
Yeah.
When you walked in, it was hitting you. There was a feeling in there. Whether you believe in whatever you believe in, there's something along the path there. And it's that connection. It's really up to you. Do you open? I saw people that didn't open themselves up to it, and they got denied that energy. They got denied that moment. They got denied this opportunity to have this special connection that you're not going to get anywhere. Like you said, it's so different from walking out your backyard, out your back door to head to the nearby park to walk. Like, forget it. It's not about the walk. It was everything else, honestly.
Yeah.
Along the way, for sure. And the church you get to at the end, you get to Santiago and this beautiful cathedral that's so well known and gorgeous. And again, you just can't help but feel something very, very strong.
Did you give yourself, had you set a timetable on how long you wanted it to take? Was there an airline ticket waiting at the other end to go home, or?
Wow, that's a good question, man. Yeah, that's a great, great question. Yes. Originally, there was no timetable when we first started. My buddy and I, we just went. But after a few days, we made friends with this random group of people, like a few people, 3 guys from Guadalajara, Mexico, who were doing it, a young girl from Austria who was doing it, a young gentleman from Valencia, Spain, who was doing it, a German guy that was doing the trip. And nobody knew each other. And we all just at one hostel decided, let's walk together. So we did. We walked the entire Camino together.
Fantastic.
The rest of the way, yeah. And we had decided we were going to go to Barcelona after we were done with the Camino to rest, like for a week or two, right? We need to rest after doing this. So we did buy plane tickets. So we ended up having like a set date we had to get to Santiago by, to make our plane tickets. So I did the Camino in 29 days.
Okay.
Which is pretty fast.
Yeah.
That's pretty fast. Most people, I would say, probably do it in 5 to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
45 to 60 day range. But that's me walking every day. I stopped twice only in 2 towns where I didn't walk one day.
Right.
But the rest of the time I was walking.
Did you have a footwear sponsor?
Oh no, but I recommend Merrell or however you pronounce it.
Yeah.
Half the people I saw were wearing those shoes. They were amazing. They got me through the whole trip. But shoe wear is, anybody who travels knows that shoe wear is number one. If you don't have good shoes for a walking trip, you're done. You're done. You just give up. Just like don't even do it. Maybe cycle. A lot of people bike it. There's a lot of people bike the Camino.
Oh, so really? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So there is a biking way of doing it as well.
Oh, 100%. And they split off it sometimes. Sometimes you're on the same trail, right? You're following the same arrows, and then there's other points. Like there's another map where bikers can go. They have a different path that they can take, because there's a lot of paths where bikes they can't get in. You know what I mean? It's impossible.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of paths where, so they make you take like roads and stuff around.
Okay.
Certain areas. But yeah, the bikers are they're traveling anywhere from 60 to 90 kilometers a day. So they're finishing it a lot quicker. It's anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks. Again, it's different for everybody. Everybody's going to do it a different way.
Now tell us, is there anything that you wished you would have taken in your backpack that you didn't, that you'd take next time?
Oh, that's a good question.
Besides a shot glass, I mean.
Man, that's a good question. What would I take? Yes. I think if I would take a better knife.
A better knife.
Yeah, I didn't have as good a knife as I would have liked to have had. Something that, because you cook a lot, actually. You end up cooking for yourself a lot. So having a good knife that's just a utility knife to cut chicken and pork and, just these different things that you're getting along the way. I just wasn't prepared for that. So if I'd have had a much better knife, I remember saying that all the time on the commute. Damn, if I just had a much better knife. And you think, well, I'll just buy one along the way. It's like nobody's, like you couldn't get a knife. I got, I don't know. So yeah, but a better knife for sure. Other than that, less stuff. I mean, I would take out stuff. Like, you don't need much of anything.
What are some of the things that you got rid of that you didn't feel as though you needed?
Like camping stuff. Like, I'm thinking I need camping gear sort of things, little things that, like a little saw, right? That's like folds out. It's a saw, and this little thing that does this, and this little thing. Basically, if you have anything in your pack that only has one use, get rid of it. Like anything in the pack should have multiple uses.
Yeah.
It should be a multi-tool of sorts. Like, if it can't be used for something else, there's no reason to have it. I also took some bowling shoes with me. Yeah. Not sure why I did that. Really stupid. Really stupid. I remember.
You can take the man out of Texas, but you can't take the Texas out of the man.
I mean, it was literally the dumbest thing. I'm embarrassed to even say that I took bowling shoes with me on the Camino trip. I mean, we'll find. I love bowling.
It's official now. It's on the podcast. Everyone's going to hear it. You took bowling shoes on the Camino. You might be the only person that's ever done that. Do you know that?
I have to be the only person that's ever done that. Like, I mean, granted, they were gone after day one. I dumped them.
Yeah.
I dumped them at the hostel. Just get out of my bag. It barely weighed anything, but just everything was coming out of there. Clothes that I needed too. I just left it.
I've just got to ask the question though. Did you really truly believe that you were going to go bowling on the trail?
I thought maybe at some point, because you go through towns.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe at some point we'll hit a town where we can bowl. I mean, as dumb as that sounds, that's what I thought.
Okay, fair enough.
And you do go through towns. I think we did pass a bowling alley. So if I would have kept them, I could have bowled with my own shoes.
Right.
So, in retrospect, like, we're laughing about it, but I hung on to them. I could have used them. But still, ridiculous. Stupid, ridiculous. Didn't need them. Bonehead move on my part.
Note to self, next time, no bowling shoes, but make sure I have a good knife, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly. And maybe a guitar. If you could find a way to take some music, maybe if I'd have had a harmonica or something along. I'm a musician, so I really, ukulele maybe, or something miniature that creates music would be super beneficial.
When I talk about the trail and I think about who does it, who walks it, is it families? Are there any families out there doing it together?
That's a great question, man. Not really. I mean, families, to say, like, you might see a father-son duo out there or mother-daughter sort of thing, but there's not whole families doing the trip. I didn't see anything like that. Like, not that sort of thing. I never saw any kids or anything like at all. Like, there's definitely no kids doing it. Maybe certain legs of it, like near the end, there are people that will do like the last 50 kilometers.
Yep.
So along that portion of it, yeah, you're going to see some families sort of, but they're not walking with packs. They've stayed at hotels and, that sort of thing. And it's just a day. There's people that just walk the last 3 kilometers, just sort of a day sort of thing. So that aspect, yeah, you're going to see some families, but like people like doing the actual Camino. No.
What would be the average age group of people that you came across?
I would say 20 to 40, somewhere in there. That was the age. And then there's a group of older folks, which gives me hope, in the 55 plus range that were doing it. They don't walk as much. They're walking probably 10 kilometers a day. They're just taking their time, which I love. They take their time. They got everything planned out. They're taking in all the sights and really, really, taking everything in. Because you can get caught up very much in just walking and passing everything if you don't and literally smell the roses. Like, you literally have to stop and do that. But yeah, mainly it's 20 to 40, that sort of range. And you're looking at somebody that has that kind of free time.
Yeah.
Right. Like a lot of free time to take.
So did you find that these people were kind of searching for something in their lives? Was that a common denominator?
Totally. 100%.
Mm.
Great observation. That's exactly what it was. People searching for more. I never felt so included in my life, like meeting so many people like myself, wanderers, dreamers, creative, you know what I mean? Willing to do something like this. Like, it was phenomenal. People with the same sort of just personality, that searching, looking for something more in life, not accepting, what you have, but knowing that there's something more, and I'm going to go look for it and find what's right for me.
They must have all been podcasters.
Yeah, I bet a lot of them are. And back then, that wasn't a thing, podcasting. So, like, I bet now people are podcasting on the Camino. I bet it's a huge thing, 100%. Like, there should be a Camino podcast. Somebody that
there is.
There is.
Yeah, I found it yesterday. Yeah, there is.
There should be. 100%, because that would be great. That's great that there is. There should be more. Like, 100%.
I'm interested to know how the journey changed you as you were going. Did you feel within that there was a change going on?
Yes, I it's funny. Honestly, like, going with my buddy that I went with. Honestly, the contrast of seeing him not change is what made me notice my changes even more. Because we got to have these conversations where I'm just like, man, doesn't this affect you this way? And doesn't this do this? And he's like, nah, I feel the same. And I'm just thinking, wow, that's crazy. Like, how does that not affect you in such a profound way? Because it has me, and everyone else that I'm talking to along the Camino, everyone you would talk to, they would give you this profound change that they're going through, and whatever it may be, stuck on something mentally or whatever. Everyone was just rearing, ready to get back to life. And like, when I get back to life, I'm going to do it this way and that way. You know what I mean? That sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just like an afternoon workshop that you're in. This is like a whole adventure where it's like breaking you like a wild stallion. To become better at life, if you let it. Again, if you let it. Again, I saw many people miss the opportunity. If you don't open yourself up, you're not going to see it. Like, that amazes me, but that's some people, and whatever. That's everybody's journey is their own, and I'm not here to judge that. So, but for me, it definitely, I could tell the change was happening, and every day I wanted more of it, and every day I couldn't wait for the sun to come up and to get up and to get out and see what was just around the corner. It was all new. What was the next adventure going to be that day, and what were we going to see, and what breathtaking view were we going to have, because every day was like that.
I love that analogy, like a breaking down a stallion. I love that. That's a great way of explaining how it impacted you.
Yeah, right on. That's it.
I'm going to use that as the quote for the show if I can. That's fantastic. Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, that's really cool. Your friend wasn't having the same kind of experience. Was he younger or older than you?
Just a few years younger than me. Different person. We grew up differently. He grew up with money. I did not. He had a different way of life. Like, it was really nothing for him to go to Europe and do this trip. And me, I sold everything I had. I worked tirelessly for a year to save up and have the money. And you know what I mean? Like, it was a big deal for me. I ended up staying after the Camino. I stayed in Spain and became a resident. I got married there. I met somebody there. Like, I lived there for years. Like, it changed me profoundly. I moved back to the States to open up a Spanish business.
Wow.
I mean,
wow.
It has still impacted me to this day. I'm going back in 2021 for the next Jacobian year with the same people that I did it with last time.
Oh, fantastic. That's amazing.
Like, it's still people I talk to, right? Like, and I only saw them for those 45 days, maybe, the couple weeks after Barcelona, but I only saw them for that little stint in my life, but they're like family to me.
Yeah.
Like, more than people I've known for 20 years.
Extraordinary.
Because it's so weird. Like, you live a whole lifetime on the Camino in that little trip. You just live this whole lifetime.
Tell us what the last day was like when you arrived in Santiago and you were, just Can you share that emotion and that experience with us?
Absolutely. It was that was the hardest day that I had, honestly, was the last day. And it broke me. And I think I needed that day to happen for me to have really enjoyed it. Like, honestly, it didn't rain until the last couple days. So up until that point, I we had no problems. I got rid of my poncho. So I ended up
the bowling shoes had gone.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't have my bowling shoes, so I'm basically, up to this point, I really hadn't had any issues, any major issues, and the last day was just like I got lost because I decided to walk alone. I wanted to have my own journey that day and end the Camino, like my personal journey. And I ended up getting lost, and it rained, and I had lost my wallet. My money was with another pilgrim, so I couldn't buy food. I remember, it was just a really bad day for me. But when I arrived right at the plaza, and it's like it all goes away. Yeah. All the pain, I couldn't believe I made it. I couldn't believe it was over. I couldn't believe I finished. Like, I was bawling like a baby. All the emotion just came out of me. I was just bawling like a baby. I dropped to my knees. One knee, I was trying to drop the other knee. It hurt so bad I couldn't bend it. But just all the emotion was just very overwhelming. And you're seeing the other people there that are finishing. Everybody's just picking each other up. I'm kissing a bunch of strangers, just locking lips. Everybody's kissing everybody. You're just like so much emotion, just so overwhelming. I've never felt anything like that to this day, or since. Like, it is so overwhelming, and it makes it all worth it. Anything you were doubting along the way,
Was it the hardest? Was it the hardest physical thing you've ever done?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I play Texas football, so that was hard. But yeah, physically it was. Now again, there are much harder things to do physically. And people that are going to be on your show, who have traveled and done these things, they have done way more physical things. So it's nothing in comparison to that. A normal person who doesn't do much stuff like that, like, this is the adventure for you. This is the everyday man adventure. You can go and walk over 500 miles and see a whole country on foot. Get to know it better than where you live, where you grew up. You will get to know it better than your own country, which will be a strange feeling. But you'll grow as a person like you've never grown. And honestly, just about anybody can do it. Yes, you do need to train a little bit, but for the most part, if you've got the will and you've got the time, I highly recommend it. I highly, make the time to go do something like this.
Do you know if many people turn around and go back after they've got to Santiago? Do they go back to where they started?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that do some, different way of walking. So there was one guy on the trail who was infamously known, that was his life. He just did the Camino. So he would get to Santiago and turn around and go back and then come back. He did it year round, year after year. He'd been doing it for like 30 years. He never stopped. Wow. And he just wore he looked like an apostle.
He's probably the guy. He's probably the guy that started the podcast.
Yeah, it might be, man. Yeah. This guy's crazy. Like, he's got a long beard. He looks like Moses. Yeah. He looks like Moses. He wears like a...
Maybe he is Moses.
He could be Moses.
He could be Moses.
Who knows, this guy. He just sells like art along the way. He doesn't even carry a bag. He does not wearing clothes, right? He's just wearing like this tunic sort of thing.
He definitely sounds like a podcaster to me.
Yeah, I don't know. This guy probably never seen a microphone before. I don't know. He's, I got to meet him along the way at one point, and he was a nice guy. He spoke like 20 languages. Wow. But all broken sort of thing. So I don't even know what his his native tongue is. Yeah. I have no idea. I don't know where he was from, what country. I couldn't tell. Yeah. He was just infamous along the way. But for the most part, no. Most people just, the end. That's it. That's the end. And I wouldn't imagine anybody's going to walk it backwards because, again, the end is Santiago. Like, you need to get there. Like, that's no matter where you start. Maybe if you started in Santiago and did a loop around and came back, maybe okay.
Yeah.
But you have to end there.
Yeah, right.
You have to end there.
For people listening today, there's a few things that I want to ask you in relation to preparing themselves to go off and do this. What are the 4 or 5 main tips you can pass on to people that are listening and have been super inspired by your journey, which I must say is super inspiring, and they're going to go, right, I'm going to go and do this next year or soon or whatever. What are the things that you would say to them to make sure they do before they go?
Oh, that's a great question. Prepare for that trip. I would say get your plane ticket so that you can't back out, right? Like, that should be step number 1, because you'll try to back out. But let's say you're going, right, and you got your plane ticket, you're definitely going. You want to have a good backpack. You want to have, as far as your gear goes, you don't need much gear, but the gear you get, make it great. And it doesn't have to be expensive. Look online, get on Craigslist, eBay, get out there, ask some friends, but have a good backpack, great shoes, maybe a journal or something that you want to, keep notes in. A lot of people do something like that and always regret that they didn't have it with them along the way. I heard a lot of people saying, damn, I wish I had a journal with me or something like that, or I don't recommend taking electronics. A lot of people try to take like laptops but this is before iPads and tablets that I went. So maybe a tablet or something might be worthwhile. There wasn't really much of an internet connection along the way.
That's a good thing.
So yeah, of course. Last thing I was thinking about. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Maybe read up on it a little bit. That is something that it would be cool to know certain details about the trip before you're going. I would research the different trails to find which trail is going to be the best for you, because that will be your journey, is that trail. Yeah. So pick what best suits you for the trail. And I don't recommend, if you have no experience, doing one of the harder trails, stick to something easy. The Camino Francés is the best one to do because it has the best support system along the way. Right. So there's a lot of businesses that are built into the Camino along the way to help you get to where you're going. And what I mean by that is I don't mean there's these sports stores or anything. I just mean there's a lot more hostels and albergues to stay in, along the way. And there's more signage. You're less likely to get lost. Take a compass. 100% take a compass with you. And a good knife. And a good knife, that's and an open mind, go with an open mind, let it change you as a person. I feel like really it's a waste of a journey if you're not going for that. Yeah. Like I don't even really see the point. Like, just go to Spain and stay in Madrid for a week if all you want is some good, some food and this and that, just be open to it. Try everything. Don't say no to anything along the way. If somebody says, hey, you want to walk with me today, do this, say yes. Yeah. Just go with it. Yeah. Who cares where you end up?
Actually, your understanding of the language helped a lot during your time.
Sure.
But traveling somewhere and not understanding the language also gives you an opportunity to connect in different ways.
100%. I mean, even though I'm walking in Spain and I'm not walking with Spanish people, like I hardly met any Spaniards that walk the Camino, right? Like the one guy that walked with us from Valencia, but he spoke Valenciano. Mm-hmm. He did speak a little Spanish, like Castellano, but he's from Valencia where they speak their own language. Yeah. So I'm still having to find ways to communicate, buddy, and that's great. You're doing a lot of charades, and I'm used to that stuff. So I like that. I like trying to find a way to break through a normal way of communicating. Yep. With somebody. It's you start to find you have these deeper connections sometimes with people like that. You start revealing secrets to people you don't even tell your best friends back home. I mean, literally, you're telling people your deepest, darkest, they will come out. Like your skeletons in your closet will come out along the Camino. Like it just, in a good way, let it out. And everyone starts revealing and you start to realize, you know what? I'm not so different. Like we are all on this same crazy journey together. And we are all going through a lot of the same things. The details might be different, but we can all help each other. It can make you not feel alone. Yeah. Can make you feel like I belong in this world. Yeah. There's other people out there that think like me, and that's a great feeling. Yeah. To have.
That's fantastic. Before I close up today, there's a couple of things that I want to ask you. The first one is, Where are you off to next? Where's your next travel destination?
Oh gosh. So look, right now I'm busy with my travel show where I'm traveling just in Texas. But so my goal is, I'm trying to plan a trip for I like to travel in the summer. So I'm trying to plan a trip for Eastern Europe next summer. So same like June, July. I want to take 30 days and hit about 8 to 10 countries in Eastern Europe, backpack, and just take the backpack and start flying to London and make my way around, end in Paris, make my way around near the boot of Italy.
Well, you've got the appetite now, so there's no stopping you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I love to travel. I've lived in Spain. I lived there for years. I lived in Mexico for years, and I've lived in the States for years. So I like to go and stay one place, live there and absorb it all and take it all in. I kind of, I'm that guy that'll go on vacation and then not leave.
Yeah. Fantastic. Now, we would love to have you back on the show after you've done your next trip, and you can talk about your other experience, because it's been an absolute treat having you on the show today, talking about the Camino. And I'm sure you've inspired many people out there to dust off their bowling shoes, get a good knife, and to get ready for that trail, because it's an extraordinary story you've just shared with us, Patrick, and I'm really appreciative of it.
Well, that's awesome. I really appreciate, coming on the show and being able to talk about that experience. And if I just inspired one person, I feel good about that. That's the truth. But to anybody listening, into any other adventure you've done, this is a unique one because it's a pilgrimage. How many pilgrimages still exist to this day, right? Like, who goes on a pilgrimage? That's such a weird thing to say.
Yeah,
but that's what it is. It's a pilgrimage. It's not a regular hike. It's not the Appalachian Trail. It's not climbing a mountain. It's not that. It's something unto its own, and it's very unique to the rest of the world. So it's. I hope people would look it up and give it an opportunity.
That's a beautiful way to wind up the show today. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to post your online stuff in the description of the podcast, so people can check out what you're doing, when you're going to release your next foodie stuff, so they can all catch up. And if they're ever in Texas and they want a great taco, they know who to contact.
That's right. That's right. That's awesome.
Patrick, it's been wonderful having you on the show. Thanks very much for joining us. And I really would love to have you back sometime. So we will keep in touch. Yeah.
Absolutely, Mark. Of course, brother. I really do appreciate it. Thank you again for having me on.
There we go. There's Patrick Scott Armstrong coming from Austin in Texas today. What a fantastic story. And that sounds like that travel experience that he had absolutely changed his life. And I'm sure there's many people that are listening today that have been super inspired by Patrick's story. So thanks again, Patrick, for joining us. Now, if you want to hear more of our episodes on the Global Travel Channel podcast show, you can go to Apple Podcast, Spotify, or Stitcher and download them. Also, our website at www.globaltravelchannel.com. All of our episodes are there for you to listen to and download in your own free time. You can also support us on Patreon so that we can keep these podcasts coming. We love doing this and we want to keep this going as long as we possibly can. So check out our Patreon page and see if you can contribute something there. Okay, that's it for me. My name is Mark Philpott, and until next time, I wish you all bon voyage.